everyone, and welcome to my channel. I'm Angel Azzarra, and I'm a professional opera singer and voice teacher. And today I'm going to be reacting to Ariana Grande's, because I know that I want to say Grande, but I know that she's pronounced it Grande, like on a radio show, and I keep saying Ariana Grande in my head, and I cannot change it. But I know it's Grande. Okay, I'm reacting to her best live vocals. I'm really excited because I think that she is an amazing singer. I think her voice is incredibly flexible and agile, and I'm looking forward to hear what this compilation has of her singing. So let's go. So right off the bat, they start with bang, bang. She sounds amazing. Her belt is surprisingly powerful for somebody who is just as tiny as she is. I know that body size and voice type really are a false correlation, but it's still kind of weird to see it because she's so petite. But her mouth is open so wide and high, and she still manages to keep her jaw quite relaxed even when she's belting at the top of her range. Her voice tends to go into head voice whenever she's doing runs at the top of her register, which makes sense because she has an extremely high voice as well, with a high break and a whistle tone, a whistle register. So it makes sense that her belt is also mixed with quite a lot of head voice, and that accounts for, I don't want to say the nasality of her voice because that has negative connotations. I don't think she's singing like Janice from Friends. I think that she has a lot of nasal resonance in the back of her nasal cavity. It's called nasopharyngeal space. And she opens that up quite wide, manages to keep the oropharyngeal space, which is just below it and in the mouth, fairly closed. So it's, imagine she's opening up into an upside down triangle like this, while simultaneously her mouth is going like this and creating a really wide open space. Now, her jaw is simply relaxed and down, but to help out with the pressure even more, she will tilt up. Now, what this does is it takes pressure off of your hyoid bone, because even when the jaw drops naturally, just like that, just like gravity plops your jaw open, the hyoid bone, which is suspended by muscles, it's not connected to any other bones in your body, it suspends just above the larynx. Even if your jaw just drops naturally like this, the jaw itself will depress the hyoid bone, which in turn depresses the larynx. Now, I'm sure if you've had lessons before, especially if you've had lessons with a classical teacher, you've heard them say, you need a lowered larynx. You need a lowered larynx while you sing, blah, 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 blah. That's true if you're singing classically, but if you're singing belt, you actually need a slightly raised laryngeal position. A reluctantly raised if you want, but it still needs to be in a higher position than it is when you're singing classically. So she avoids that depression of her larynx by going up. You see a lot of belters do it. Some do it naturally because they are just feeling tension in their body and adjusting to move it. And some singers know, hey, that's where my hyoid bone is. I bet if I tilt my neck up, not crunch it, but tilt it, that I'll probably alleviate some pressure and my larynx can naturally raise where it needs to go without me trying to manipulate it. Okay, like what was she even singing? Sounds good. She goes into that breathy early Mariah Carey sound. Nobody hates it. Like literally I could listen to that all day long. Singing with an excessive amount of air in your tone If you don't have anything of substance, yes, I'm back on the ukulele girls with their Instagram covers where it's just nothing but breath. If you don't have anything of substance on top of an airy tone, literally, I will never want to listen to you. I won't listen to you. I'll turn you off. But when you have a little bit of air in your tone and you have a beautiful, beautiful phonating, healthy sound in the core of that excess air, it's just sexy. That's all it is. Is it the healthiest way to sing? Not really. If you're going to go for any type of onset, obviously balanced onset is the best way to go. But we've heard Ariana before. We know that she can achieve a balanced onset, which simply means when air starts moving through the chords at the same time as the chords begin to oscillate or move or vibrate or whatever you want to call it. A breathy onset just means that air passes through the chords before the chords connect and begin oscillating. If she sang like that all the time, I'd be concerned, but she doesn't. She uses it as an effect to sound sexy or to sound like a 90s pop diva, and it clearly works, and she clearly knows how to use it, and she doesn't use it all the time, so it's just an effect. It kind of sounds, whoa, that was horrible. Still had a thing in my ear. But it kind of sounds almost that when she belts, she's using head resonance. It sounds so pointed to my ear. It doesn't even sound like she's using nasopharyngeal sometimes when she's belting so high, which is crazy to me because I really don't teach that high of a resonance placement for belt. I mean, it obviously, it always depends on the person's body, but she does it so well, and it's probably what enables her to A, belt so high, and B, transition into head voice so quickly. Because she's already in that resonance, all she needs to do is drop her chest voice out, and then she's doing, the runs, and it's mostly in head voice. But yeah, it's a quite high placement for a belt. It really sounds to my ears like it's right here instead of being here where most people's high power belt is, especially if they're singing quite mixed like she does. You can hear when I just sang it, it did not sound good and it sounded incredibly nasal. That's because if I'm belting those notes, I shouldn't be resonating here. I should be resonating in my cheekbones, more in the nasopharyngeal space. But it works for her. And I could be wrong. If I heard her live, it would be a lot easier to pinpoint where she's resonating from. But in that particular clip, it really did sound like it was coming from right here. Who knows? Who's to say? It's not a live. She's not right in front of me, so it's hard to tell. I didn't like listening to The Weeknd. Sorry. It was a little pitchy right at the beginning. Sorry. I shouldn't be mean. But it was a little tiny bit pitchy from him. Anyways, I'm not reacting to him. I'm reacting to Ariana. Now, Ariana was doing that breathy voice again, that 90s pop diva breathiness, not ukulele girl breathiness. They're different. And it sounded good. It sounded to me like she was kind of controlling the runs that she needed, the agility that she needed. She took away a little bit of breath support. Now, I'm not saying that the sound wasn't supported. I'm saying she was creating a much smaller sound by using less air, less space. You saw, ooh, ooh. I do not know that song at all. I'm sorry. I just listened to it and I literally don't even remember what the melody was. I just remember the quality of her voice while she was singing it. But her aperture was really small. Ooh. Now, she still has core sound. There's a lot of air around it. But despite the fact that you hear a lot of air, because she's not using a lot of space and she's not using a wide opening in the front, and by space, I mean resonating space, and mouth space, buccal space. She's not using a lot of either. And so even that tiny bit of air that she's using is still being pushed out, and we're hearing the excess of it in the little runs that she's doing. It's an easy way to keep control when you're trying to do more agile stuff and you don't need to like blow the house down. It's a great way to save your voice, I think. You know, conserve on space, conserve on air, and yet you're still creating a really flexible sound with a nice color, and it's achieving the effect that you want. Smart singing. So that one was the first time where I heard that belt not go into the resonance here. It actually felt like it stayed here, and because of that, it felt a little tight. Sometimes when singers are doing runs to excess like that, like she was doing a lot of fioritura to, you know, show off the agility that's naturally prevalent in her voice. But sometimes when singers are doing that, it's because it's almost easier to do the run than it is to do the sustained belt. I have definitely been there where I have done what people think is an impressive run when really I just couldn't belt that high that particular day, and I hit it with agility. That's what it sounded like to me. Maybe she's learned that she needs to put more resonance here since then, because it looked like that was an older video to me. She still had her red hair. And the belt still sounded very much resonating from the mask, with still an equal amount of mix to me of chest and head voice, but just a lower placement. Again, the other clip I heard where I heard her resonating more here, it sounded much more healthy. It didn't sound like she was escaping into a run to protect that, tight sustain, but it did feel a little bit tight there to me. And the run felt a little bit like a cover up. It was good. Yeah. And the belt was good. There wasn't any pitchiness or anything. It just wasn't quite that space, that round space that we normally hear from her. And again, there, it sounded like the belt had more resonance here. So maybe, she's always been a really, really excellent and intelligent singer, which honestly, I would rather have brains over natural talent any day of the week. But she's always been both. Thank God. She's awesome. But it sounds like she's learned that this placing a little bit higher here for her body is a little bit healthier than when she's just belting and feeling resonance in her nose and in her nasopharyngeal space. It's really interesting because, like I said towards the beginning, I haven't done that with students before, but maybe the next time I have a belt student who has a similar stature to Ariana and a similar bone structure, maybe I would say, hey, let's try a resonance that's just a little bit higher placed when you're belting, because maybe it would work for them like it works for her. But you hear there's no risk of strain. And when she came into the run at the end of that piece, it was such a smooth transition. It didn't feel like she was breaking off into a run. It just felt like she was continuing into a run. Sounded a little strange to me. It didn't sound, it was good. It was good. The runs were clear, but it didn't quite sound like she knew where she was going. Like maybe she was improvising new runs. I actually don't know that song at all. So maybe she was improvising, like I said, she's improvising new runs, or maybe she was performing it for the first time. I kind of doubt that. But it didn't sound like she knew where she was going. And so the runs that usually have such clean precision were just a little bit, not sloppy. It's just like the runs were a little bit more legato than they usually are. Usually I hear the pitch change really, really clear, and it was just more smooth than I'm used to hearing from her. I wouldn't say that it went into the realm of sloppiness, but that is usually the term that I would use when I don't hear really, really clean cut runs. So good. And again, it just sounds like it's a higher placed belt than most people belt, and it sounds so good. And the transitions when she goes into a run or when she goes into head voice, oh yeah, it sounds so clean. It's just such a clean, like incredibly, incredibly agile sound. I know that I talk about this a lot, but let's iterate once again. Important mouth aperture for belting. Smile on the upper teeth. I don't want to see bottom teeth. And she's doing that so perfectly. Like I could frame it and put it on my studio wall. It's a beautiful smile. It's stock photos of women eating salad. Like you don't see their bottom teeth. It's this. The zygomatic musculature is up. The teeth are out and slightly wide, and the jaw is just dropped down as if by gravity. There's nothing going on. If you're adjusting your jaw at all, it's because well, I don't want to say that this is good, but it's because you're articulating pitch, which can lead to tension if you're pushing a lot of sound. But for pop runs, I see a lot of jaw articulation, and it can happen and not at all be an issue. Or the jaw is moving because you're actually moving your spine and you're not moving your jaw at all. My jaw's not moving. It's just my neck. And she does that a lot to alleviate pressure on her larynx so her larynx can go to the space that it needs to be without her manipulating it into position. So I know that a lot of people like make fun of Ariana when she does like, yeah, everything. So you don't hear most belters modify their vowels because they're belting with a little bit more chest. So the need to modify a vowel when you're already in a much more speech level position isn't really super necessary. But because she belts with a high amount of head voice carried down, even though it's a very powerful belt, it's still a lot of head voice carried down. And because of the change in ratio, it makes sense that she modifies her vowels a lot more. And it could just kind of sound like, oh yes, this is 90s pop diva. This is 90s R&B sound. But the reason for those manipulated and modified vowels is because she's coming from a place that has just more head voice in it than it has chest. And because it's not quite so speech level, she needs to modify for the space to remain free and not get caught up in specific vowel shapes. So, and the modifications do tend to be more open vowels. She'll take thing to thang instead of singing thing. See how that's more nasal when I sing it with more head voice in the mix? Doesn't work. You have to open it up so it doesn't sound like you're Janice from Friends or Fran Drescher from The Nanny. Anyways, I'm going to stop talking about New York women with intense nasal voices and say thank you so much for watching. I really love Ariana. I hope you do too. I think she's an incredible musician and singer. I'm so glad that she exists like in the space for celebrities in 2020, for singers in 2020 in Hollywood, because it was kind of like empty after Mariah. I know that we had Beyonce, but we didn't have somebody with that same like whistle, incredible agility since Mariah. So it's great sort of having her just existing, and she puts out some bops. So anyways, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you found it informational or helpful at all, please like and subscribe, and toi 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 until next time.